We good to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Aloha.
Aloha.
So it's really great to be here and to get a chance to connect with you all. So I just want to thank the organizing committee for putting together the meeting. So thank you so much. So the board appointed me director in January, and I wanted to give you sort of a 9-month, where is my head at on all of this? So number one, it's been a lot of learning for me. And I feel very humbled to have this responsibility to lead the observatory. And here's my impression 9 months in, is that we are at an inflection point for the observatory and thinking about the future. So when I think of the arc of Keck scientific impact, we're at this point now where we face major issues and opportunities, and where we all want it to go is to continue to go like this. But we have to navigate so that we don't plateau or go, worse yet, in a negative direction. So the things I'm thinking about with regard to that are the future of Keck Observatory on Mauna Kea, obviously. Also, the ability to operate effectively and efficiently while facing the fact that we're now a 35-year-old observatory and the operations has never been more complex or expensive. So we got to figure that out. Also, of course, meeting the needs of this community for instrumentation and AO now and in the future. And of course, all of that takes money. So how do we fund it all? So what gives me confidence about our ability to navigate is the engagement, whether it's the partners, the board, the SSC, all of you, and of course the observatory, this feeling of engagement and ownership for the observatory to pursue our mission, which is to advance the frontiers of astronomy, share our discoveries, and inspire the imagination of all. And what makes me feel good about this is that for everyone who works at the observatory, uses the observatory, we all ascribe to the core values of stewardship for this amazing resource, stewardship of the people who work together on it, stewardship of the place we're in, and service. So this is a collective responsibility we all feel for this mission, even above maybe sometimes our individual needs, but thinking about the whole. So let me jump in and cover some of this stuff. So first of all, I only have about 20 minutes, so I'm just not gonna cover the things that might be covered later. I'll just touch upon them. So in this morning session, we'll have, like Mansi said, some discussion about the leadership of the observatory. And then tomorrow morning, there's a nice long session of talks on the instrumentation. So I'm not gonna cover that too much today. What I want to start with, though, is Hawaii astronomy. And really, we're undergoing a transformational change in how astronomy is done in Hawaii. And happy to say that Keck is in the vanguard. We really have a leadership position in this change. The other thing I'd like to say is observatory leadership and the CARA board are working proactively to plan our future at high priority, how we will exist in this new paradigm and be successful, including seeking a new lease beyond the current lease, which ends in 2033, so that we have a long future beginning in 2034 with a new arrangement and beyond. And there's been 2 areas of progress that I can talk about. One is there's been a shift in the way governance and land use is managed on Mauna Kea. And the other is improving relationship and building of trust with the community in Hawaii, which I'll refer to as a community astronomy model. So first, around the management, the MKSOA, Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority, whose purpose is to manage land use, to protect Mauna Kea as an important cultural, scientific, ecological site, is underway. It is, purpose of it is also to address the concerns of the local community in Hawaii. And so there is a transfer of responsibility that is occurring between the University of Hawaii and to this new authority. So it's based on what's called the mutual stewardship paradigm, and this is actually a quote straight out of the legislation that created the authority, which is, as you can see there, mutual stewardship is ecology, the environment, natural resources, cultural practices, education, and science are in balance and synergy. There is a 12-member board. You can see the photos there. Representing different community perspectives and expertises. And you see me up in the upper right there. I represent the observatories on this board. And for the first, they're also sort of ex officio members of the state, the county, and the university. And significantly, for the first time in terms of decision-making on Mauna Kea, there are two representatives, one a lineal descendant and one a cultural practitioner. So the voices of the Native Hawaiian community are included there. It really is a community-based approach to management. 11 of the 12 people pictured there are born in Hawaii. 8 of the 12 are Native Hawaiian, and half of them live on Hawaii Island, where Mauna Kea is. The current focus is building capacity because it is a new agency. So a leadership team has been hired and put in place, actively working on the transition aspects with the University of Hawaii. And a big aspect of what the board is focused on is developing a management plan. So what is the right balance of astronomy and other activities on Mauna Kea? The board is actively meeting. In fact, I'm going to step out today for 2 hours from 1 o'clock to attend this month's meeting. Thanks, Tom, for use of your office. Here's the timeline. So from 2023, last July through July of 28 is this transition period where we have to work out transfer of responsibility from University of Hawaii to the MKSOA and develop this management plan. In 2028, the authority takes full oversight responsibilities for land use and conduct on Mauna Kea type issues. And then from 2028 to 2033 is when the lease negotiation and decisions get made. And of course, in the state of Hawaii, the law allows public review and even legal challenges to occur. So that's the time period. And the goal, of course, is for any of the observatories wanting to continue to operate on Mauna Kea is that new leases take effect after the old ones expire. And of course, Keck is looking to do that at high priority. I also mentioned that of the improving relationship with the Hawaiian community and what I call the community astronomy model. And we're working hard to improve that relationship, and Keck again is in the vanguard of this. We've been working with the other Mauna Kea observatories on a set of guiding principles so that we approach this with the same philosophy across the observatories on Mauna Kea. And you see these 4 principles there. I think respect for Mauna Kea speaks for itself. Knowledge exchange is in the pursuit of mutual understanding. So sharing our astronomical knowledge, as well as who we are, how we operate, also being respectful and showing curiosity about other perspectives on the cosmos and Mauna Kea, especially from the Native Hawaiian point of view, again, towards the goal of mutual understanding. Nurturing connection is all about prioritizing collaboration and genuine relationships, not transactional, but actually getting to know each other since we all live and work on Hawaii Island. And then the 4th one, Hawaii rooted within a global context. So how do we fit in? How do we respectfully adopt some of the customs and ways of working and living in Hawaii as observatories, while also totally celebrating and acknowledging that we are a global enterprise in astronomy. So it's this mixture of the two and figuring out how to integrate. What I'd like to say here is that for Keck to succeed, we must go through this paradigm change and shift together. And this is not like in the past where you might have a small outreach group that goes and does this aside from the main work of the observatory, but everyone who works at the observatory and everyone who gets data from Mauna Kea has to go through this shift together. Otherwise, I don't think that trust will really be gained. So we need everyone's buy-in and commitment. And one way that I may suggest to you that you can engage in this, if you want to learn more about Mauna Kea, is to view this video. It's an orientation video that provides multiple perspectives about Mauna Kea. It is a little bit out of date because it got shot right before the shift to the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority, but it gives cultural perspectives, geologic perspectives, et cetera. And so please take a look at that. The second way I'll mention is in Sherry Ye's talk. She's going to be talking about a program called the Pilina and Kokua program for astronomers to engage in Hawaii. So pay attention to that one. It's another way. Going to shift to scientific highlights. So I'm not going to talk about the science of this, but this is a hypervelocity star studied by Adam and his colleagues. What I'd like to say about this is the public is as passionate about your science as ever. This story was featured in CNN, New York Times, BBC, and multiple publications. So keep putting your science out there. I think it's really important. And it's a good opportunity to mention that our communications officer, who's been with us for 7 years, Mariela Chop, is going to be leaving the organization at the end of the year. She's actually going to go back to school to pursue an astronomy degree because she loves what you all do so much. So I'd like to actually introduce Megan O'Shea, who's taking over the communications officer role. So when you have big results you want to put out into the world, talk to Megan. Okay, so I'm going to shift to science productivity, and Keck continues to produce 300 papers a year with high average impact per paper, and on track to do that again this year. So my earlier question is a question to all of us. How will we maintain, increase, and avoid decline of this scientific productivity? So tune into the new instrument and AO capabilities talks tomorrow. That's one aspect. We also need to form a strategy that takes into account the context of global competitiveness and complementarity. And the observatory actually looks to you, the science community working through the SSC, to give us good advice about what those priorities should be going forward, and really working with John as our chief scientist. And we got to remember to take care of our bread and butter, which is the people who operate the observatory and the facilities, right, to operate efficiently, sustainably, and within our means. Here's some observing statistics. So basically, I'll cut to the chase, which is that over the last year, we've been able to get photons on detectors at the same rate that we have historically. As I'll show you, though, in the next slides, this has been, despite the fact that observatory operations has never been more complex. So really shout out to the staff for being able to continue to achieve that. And this is obviously a hot topic for this meeting, which is about the instrument suite evolution. So how do we add the new capabilities you all want while keeping the instrument suite manageable and sustainable? So the SSC and the committee of the instrument suite evolution has been working hard to answer these questions. And I just want to thank the ISE committee for over a year's worth of work, and of course the SSC for working through their recommendations. From the observatory perspective, we have to be aware that there's operational pressures on people and budget. So decommissioning is not only necessary to make space for new instruments, but also to keep the complexity level and the workload manageable. NIRES and ESI have been identified as the first two candidates, and we're looking for your input. See the email at the bottom, and we'll be talking more about this in the SSC report and the panel that we'll have shortly about why decommissioning is needed. But I wanted to give you a couple slides on the operational pressures. So here is a graph of the number of instruments that the observatory has in its suite over time, starting, of course, with the original workhorse instruments. And it's our duty to provide a versatile and powerful instrument suite and AO capability so you can do your science. But we also have to assure that we can maintain the reliability and performance of all the instruments in the suite. And we have to do so under a fixed operations budget. So you'll see the operations FTE relatively flat at 86 FTE to run the operations aspect of the observatory. Over that time, meanwhile, the instrument suite has grown dramatically. Again, it's a real testament to the observatory staff that we've been able to maintain the productivity despite this increasing complexity. And so I just want to shout out to our staff. But this has reached a point now where it is unsustainable and we can't just keep adding. So we're very excited to get new instruments that are coming down the pipeline really soon, like scales and high spec. But in order to have the capacity to manage that suite, we're going to have to make some difficult decisions. And we look to you, the community, to help us figure out what those the answer to some of those difficult decisions. Here is another dimension of operational pressure. So on the left graph is the programs per night over time. So this is largely driven by the advent of split nights and to a small degree TOOs. But you can see where we started off slightly over 1 program per night to now we're averaging about 1.6. The main impact there is to the support astronomers, but also realize that when we have split nights or TOOs, that the day crew also has to prepare multiple instruments to be ready every night, and that is a workload. On the right-hand side is graphs of the number of day logs. So this is a way of us kind of measuring how complicated the day operations are. Day logs are put into the historical record of any time somebody does something on the telescope, whether it's maintenance, repair, installation of new equipment. And you can see over the years that the number of day logs has risen, and it's a measure of complexity. So if you visited the summit before, and it's been a while, and you come up on a typical day now, I think you'll notice that there's a lot more going on. Finally, I don't mean for it to read every bullet on this slide, but the point of this slide is that when you add a new instrument, it's not just a linear incremental add, it adds to the overall complexity. And these are some of the factors that we have to think about in maintaining this many instruments as a suite. And it's really hard to put a price tag like a new instrument costs X to operate because it adds complexity to all of this. And there are many potential factors that we have to consider. So that's a look into operational pressures. Another hot topic, I'm sure, is AO reliability. So the AO system reliability and performance has not been what we would hope it to be. It's been poor on Keck 1 and Keck 2 over the last year. And the way we know this is through lost time statistics, post-observing comment forms. The SSC has issued their concerns about this. And our own staff feel very stretched by working in this mode. So the issues have been around the real-time control and things like software system, network changes that we made to our firewall have caused a bunch of problems. The mitigations have been in July that we paused development work on the summit on AO to get the development team and ops team to work towards stabilizing this situation. And they've come a long way, a lot of progress. But we will have an external review before resuming that work and hope to do that fairly soon. The other thing that we've done is announce a Keck 1 AO shutdown for the bulk of 25A minus the July month in that semester for CAPA integration. So CAPA integration at this point is mainly software. And what we found in the past, our lesson learned, is that when we switch between a stable operations configuration to a development configuration back and forth, that despite our best efforts, that can cause a lot of instability in the system. This puts a lot of pressure on the folks working at night who are trying to operate the telescope for observing. And the SAs have been under tremendous pressure with the reliability issues of the past. And so we're trying to avert that. And so we decided to take AO offline in this way. I know it impacts many of your plans, and we regret that. And we also endeavor to be able to give greater advance notice in the future, but that's some of the reasons why. Another thing you should be aware of, and we've talked about this, I think, in the past, is this is part of what I said about operating a 35-year-old facility. The oil return trays on the hydrostatic bearing system on the azimuth axis of the Keck 1 were not installed correctly, perhaps not designed correctly in the beginning. And unbeknownst to us until fairly recently, meaning a few years ago, we found that oil infiltrated the grout that holds that's between the pier, concrete pier, and the azimuth journal. And that infiltration of the oil into the grout has weakened it and caused deflections. And that's Andrea Gaz was just telling me she was on the summit and she could hear the journal making popping noises. This is because of that oil infiltration. This has to be fixed. This is part of the 35-year-old problem that in order to go. So we'll keep you informed about this. As we go forward, it's going to require 2 big shutdowns. Just a quick update. I'm going to skip through this slide, but we've updated the slip mask database. With regards to organizational health, so this is some of the stuff that happens behind the curtain, is that in order for our staff to do this amazing work, we have to be a healthy organization. So this means focusing on things that make us the employer of choice, being organizationally healthy, meaning valuing diversity and inclusivity, having clear communication, building leadership capacity, things like this. Also, ensuring sustainable operations. So part of this is economic, making sure we use our resources to do what we need to do, but also in terms of technical sustainability, like the pier. And then also building our workforce. So workforce pipelines and internships and preparing for the future. And let me just sum up with the priorities. So priorities going forward, these are near term, or of course, to secure our long-term future on Mauna Kea, maintain the observatory in good working order and get on sky every night, while providing the high level of service that we pride ourselves on to the observing community. In order to do those bullets 2 and 3 in a sustained way, we need to proactively manage the operational load and pressures and focus on this organizational health aspect. And then we need to work with our partners to implement the Keck 2035 strategic plan in all its elements, and maintain and obtain resources strategically. And then lastly, I'd like to say that we want to foster strong engagement with you, the science community. So this Keck Science Meeting is one way, but since the pandemic, I think engagement has maybe fallen off a little bit. There's less of you coming to Hawaii to interact, and I think this 2-way interaction is really important. So I encourage you to come. And at the same time, I know we all care about the environment and the impact of flying on the environment and all that. So we're open to different ideas. How do we shift to continue to have good engagement in the modern world? And I know I'm out of time, so I want to close with a mahalo to 2 long-serving, loyal, impactful Kekis, Randy and Peter, who are both here. Randy really has set the tone for our service ethic to the observing community. He's been highly engaged in the science. He's part of the Galactic Center team, collaborator there. And the thing I appreciate most about Randy is that he's been the calm in the storm as we go through all these challenges. And he's also prepared leaders like Mark Cass's, Jim Like, who continue to lead at the observatory. So thank you, Randy. We all owe you a debt of thanks there. And then, of course, Peter Wazinowicz. He's going to give a AO retrospective talk tomorrow, so I think everybody should come and see that. Obviously, he's been a standout around the world in terms of implementing AO on 8 to 10 meter telescopes, just a pioneer. His work has enabled great science and just a fierce dedication to moving us forward. So just wanted to end with thank you to both of those. And
let's thank Dr. Yes.